say is Yud Beis. Wednesday is Pesach Sheni. So of course Pesach Sheni is a Chassidish Yom Tov. Now, Pesach Sheni is in the Gemara and in the Chumash. So how do we take credit for a Yom Tov which is in the Chumash? And of course the answer is we don't take credit for the Yom Tov being... The Rebbe made Pesach Sheni into something which is more than just a day that you eat matzah, don't say tachna. For most Jews, what's Pesach Sheni? You eat matzah. And you don't say tachna. By the way, one of the weirdest things about Pesach Sheni, it's truly a weird thing. And the Rebbe did talk about it, and I'm not sure what the explanation is. When do we eat matzah Pesach Sheni? Anybody know? Huh? Tell me when to eat matzah now, this year. Wednesday day, right now. If a Yid brought Pesach Sheni, when did he eat matzah? No, Wednesday night to Thursday. Of course, they brought the carbon Yudalid and they ate it the night of Tezvav. Just like the first Pesach. The first Pesach was brought Erev Pesach in the afternoon, but they didn't eat it on Yudalid. They waited for the sun to set and to have Shkia, where even the liberals, the night of the Seder, they wait till the sun is dark so they can eat the Dalet Koises at night. They ate al matzah samreim yechul, the light of Tezvav. Pesach Sheni is the same as Pesach Rishon. They brought it on Yud Daled, and they waited for the sun to set, and they waited for the sun to go away completely. The Tzeitzat Yechavim, the 3 stars came out. No, there was not just Shkia, but Tzeitzat Yechavim, and then they ate the Korban Pesach, al matzah samreim. So we're eating matzah at the wrong time. We're eating matzah not when they ate matzah, but when they made the Korban Pesach, which is a weird phenomenon. It's a weird phenomenon, Pesach Sheni. But everybody says Tachnun Tezvav. We don't say Tachnun Yudalad Iyar because they brought the Korban Pesach. We do say Tachnun Tezvav Iyar when they ate the Korban Pesach, which is it's weird, it is odd, it's funny. But anyway, it's not funny, it's funny, it's hard to explain and understand. But Pesach Sheni for most Jews, most of the time, was the day that you ate matzah and you didn't say Tachnun. And of course, from Pesach, everyone's calculating, I hope it's a Monday or a Thursday. At least we'll say a meaningful Tachnun. Today is Monday. I was saying Tachnun. Pesach Sheni is off by a day. It's got to be Thursday. If we're going to miss a Tachnun, let's be a good Tachnun. Wednesday Tachnun, I can afford Wednesday. Thursday. Anyway, David doesn't ask us what we like. He does what he wants. And we don't put things off for the weekend, so we should have a long extended vacations. You understand? The Yom Tov happens when it happens. But the Friedrich Rebbe wrote about Pesach Sheni, and the Rebbe put it into the Hayoim Yoim, and then the Rebbe fabringed about it, right? And when I was growing up, every year Pesach Sheni was a fabring. In the earlier years, not. But when I was growing up in the 1980s, Pesach Sheni was one of the Rebbe's dates. And if you know how the Rebbe operates, the Rebbe has his days that he created. Now, nothing that the Rebbe created, he created out of a hat. Everything that Rebbe created already existed before, but nobody knew what to do with it, and the Rebbe made it into a Metzias. The best example of the Rebbe creating something that already existed that nobody had is Hakel. Shnas Hakel is totally the Rebbe's idea. Totally the Rebbe's idea. Although Hakel is a pasuk Chumash, and it's a Mishnah in Gemara, Masechta Chagiga, and it's Halacha in Rambam. No, there's no Hakel. What's Hakel? Hakel is nothing. The year after Shemitah, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, one day Chalabayit, the king used to read from the Sefer Torah. That's the whole Hakel. The Rebbe made Hakel into a whole year, and you got to do all this stuff. It's all the Rebbe. So it's based on Torah, but the Rebbe made the minhagim of Hakel, which is a lumdis, which is a story which is not for now. But the Rebbe has his dates that the Rebbe, again, every one of them exists before the Rebbe, but the Rebbe made them into a mitzvah. I'll give you a list, okay? The Rebbe's holidays. Number 1, Zayin Cheshvan. Who ever heard of Zayin Cheshvan? If you're an Israeli and you live in Israel, Zayin Cheshvan, they're saying Talamata. Why? Because you're supposed to say saying Talamata right after Sukkot. But you wait 2 weeks for people to get home. And the last person gets home, Zayin Cheshvan, so you say Talamata. They made a Yom Tov out of it. The whole holiday. There was Tishrei finishes Zayin Cheshvan. Eat your heart out. That another Yom Tov of the Rebbe's, there's a lot of things that you could point to, is Zois Chanukah, right? Zois Chanukah is a Yom Tov, the whole thing, Zois Chanukah, Another Yom Tov by the Rebbe, and this, if you were a Sephardi, you would disagree with me, is Chamish Asar B'Shvat. Chamish Asar B'Shvat by Ashkenazim, the same thing. What's Chamish Asar B'Shvat? You don't say tachnan and you sleep, or you eat a little boxer. Of all the fruits to eat, boxer, do me a favor. It's impossible to eat. But the Rebbe made a whole big deal. It's not just a day that you eat figs, fresh figs. No, it's a Yom Tov with a toich. Another Yom Tov that the Rebbe created, although he didn't create it, is Purim Cotton. What's Purim Cotton? Again, this is 2 days. You doubt there's no tradition. You don't say Tachalin and what else? Nothing. A Machaya. Usually 2 days in a row, maybe one of the two at least will be a Monday or a Thursday. So we'll save a big Tachalin, but no one else had anything. The Rebbe made Purim Cotton, it's a big deal. The Rebbe made Purim Cotton in certain ways bigger than Purim Cotton. And another date of the Rebbe is Pesach Sheni. He didn't invent Pesach Sheni, but he made it into a chefza. He made it into a thing. Another day of the Rebbe's, again, I'm going through this list, is Yud Beis Sivan, the 12th day of the month of Sivan, which is the end of the Me'at HaShlumim, the end of the 7 days after Shavuos. Again, we don't say Tachalin from Reish Chodesh Sivan till Yud Beis Sivan, that's a halacha, but that's it. No one would do with it. The Rebbe made it into a Yom Tov. The end of Shavuos is Yud Beis Sivan. It's the Rebbe's Atog, right? Another date that the Rebbe sort of took out of the deep freeze and made into a whole big deal is Chamisha Asa B'Yav. Tu B'Yav. Chamisha Asa B'Yav is mentioned in the Mishnah. And mentioned in the Gemara. What's Chamisha Asa B'Yav? You don't say Tachan. What else? Nobody knows, right? It's a day for Shidduchim. And the Rebbe made Chamisha Asa B'Yav into a whole big deal. He fabrenged and so on. So how many holidays does the Rebbe have that are from the Gemara? Not the Chassidus Yom Tov. Zayin Cheshvan. Zeis Chanukah, Chamisha B'Shvat, Purim Cotton, Pesach Sheni. Oh, by the way, Lag BaOmer. Lag BaOmer is remember a Yom Tov, right? Yud Beis Sivan and Chamisha B'Yav. So 7 or 8. Lag BaOmer, I guess. Zayin Cheshvan, Zeis Chanukah, Chamisha B'Shvat, Purim Cotton, Pesach Sheni, Yud Beis Sivan, and Chamisha B'Yav. That's the Rebbe's Yom Tovs. Everybody knows about it, but nobody knows to do it. They made a whole big deal of the Pesach Sheni.
What's Yud Beis
A good question. It's the last of the days when you don't say Tachlin because of Shavuos. In the times of the Beis Hamikdash, they brought Karbanos a whole week. Till your base. So the Rebbe, it's the end of the Me'at HaShlumim for Shavuos. Now, so I just want to tell you, I was at Shul Shabbos, and the minyan finished, and I was still davening, and the guy was fabringing, and it was so good, the fabringing was so good, I couldn't concentrate on my davening. I want to tell you what he said in the middle of Maya Musaf. Okay, because it's a Gavaldik Avot. It's a Mayindik Avot. It's really, really worthwhile to repeat this, B'negeh to the year of Pesach Sheni. There's a Masechta Soita. I'm sure you heard of Masechta Soita, because between Pesach and Shavuos, you're supposed to learn a blot a day. There's 49 blot to Masechta Soita. There's 49 days of Finas Eimer. You're supposed to come Daf LaYoim, Daf LaYis, but learn Masechta Soita. The end of Masechta Soita has the discussion about Ikvus of the Mashiach. You know, the Ikvus Mashiach, the Hill of Mashiach, there's going to be a whole bunch of Simonim. The Rebbe used to say all the time, the Rebbe says all the time, that all the Simonim for the coming of Mashiach have already happened. When the Rebbe used to say, when the Rebbe says, all the Simonim for the coming of Mashiach have already occurred, the Pashtus, he was talking about this Mishnah, the last Mishnah in Masechta Soita. And it describes exactly the world we're living in today. The whole life is a party. Everyone just wants to have fun and go to taverns and go to clubs and laugh, and nobody takes anything seriously. And instead you have disrespect. Children disrespect their parents. Children-in-law disrespect their parents-in-law. I mean, the Mishnah describes what's happening in America and the world exactly. One of the interesting details that may bother you is that it speaks about inflation. Hayekir Yomir, an increase in inflation, which is a phenomenon which is undeniable. It's a whole bunch of stuff. And the Mishnah finishes, Ve'ein lanu al mili shoyin el al avinu shabashamayim. And at that time, before Mashiach comes, when you have all of these symptoms which the Mishnah describes, we have nobody to lean on except for our Father in heaven. Ein lanu al mili shoyin el al avinu shabashamayim. You have nobody to lean on except the Eivish, our Father in heaven. So this Fabrenger said that the Friedrich Rebbe said that some people think that when you read this Mishnah at the end of Masechta Soita, those words are actually good. The Mishnah is listing a whole bunch of... Can you please close the door? if you walk out, please don't come back in. I don't know what's going on out there, but it's an epidemic. Could you please stay out? Please stay out. Please stay out. Thank you. There's a disease today where the food was bad. I think 7 girls marched out here already. I think it's a record. I'm sitting here 15 minutes. If you have to go, but please don't come back. I got it. I had it. I have a limit. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what I'm saying, but I have a limit. I actually have a very short fuse, believe it or not. So the Mishnah says, before Mashiach comes, we can have nobody to rely on except for our Father in heaven. So people think that that's a positive thing. So the feeling of that's also a bad thing. Why? Because you're not supposed to rely on the Eibishter. Sometimes you got to act. Who could we lean on the Levina Shabashamayim? So the feeling Rebbe said it's also a mistake. You're not supposed to just wait for the Eibishter to help you. You're supposed to ask, please stay out, please stay out, please stay out, thank you. Sometimes you have to demand. And that, girls, is the story of Pesach Sheni. The story of Pesach Sheni is not that the Eibishter gave us an opportunity to fix a wrong. The story of Pesach Sheni is that people complain to the Eibishter. The story of Pesach Sheni is a story of people complaining to the Eibishter. That's the story of Pesach Sheni. I'll tell you a moidendike maisa, how gewaldike maisa, which is mamish a prototype. It's an archetype, a mashal, for this idea that you got to complain. I know a lady, and she never told me that I'm not allowed to tell the story. I think I'm even allowed to say her name, but I'm not going to do that. I'll just tell the story without a name. She and her husband got married in the mid-70s, Mistani. And they didn't have children for a very long time. Much more than 10 years. How long, I don't know, but I mean, her children are not much older than my children, and she's 50 years older than I am. Her kids were born very, very late. She didn't have kids for years. She had a cousin in Eretz Yisrael who was a mashpia, a very chassidish lady, who told her in Hebrew, those who nudge get. Those who nudge get means bugs the Rebbe, bother the Rebbe. So she did. She told me personally, I probably wrote the Rebbe 100 letters about children over the course of a decade or more. They told me, I probably wrote the Rebbe 100 letters or more about children. Anyway, sometimes she got an answer, usually she didn't get an answer, and she didn't have kids. Now, one of those days when everybody was mobbing the Rebbe for children was like Bo'ema. You have to try to picture this, okay? A lot of people needed drachas. And like Bo'ema was the day to get them. The stories with the Rebbe and like Bo'ema are not normal. I know a woman who was married 18 years. 18 years. Just 4 kids. 4 kids, like Bo'ema babies. The miracles of like Bo'ema were staggering. Staggering. So people literally, they mobbed the Rebbe. So there were people whose job it was to let the Rebbe walk. So people, the Rebbe walked out of his house. It was mobbed. There were people who didn't let you approach. But somehow it was done in such a way that nobody could go into the Rebbe, but enough people got over anyway. You know, the Rebbe had to be able to walk. And the Rebbe was walking and talking. But there were nisim in the place. Like Bo'ema, but the Rebbe was unbelievable. Just imagine this. Try to picture this, okay? You don't have children. Chas v'shalom. Someone for 50 million years could have children, yeah? So you had to decide where you're going to stand. First spot, President Street. The Rebbe leaves his house in the morning. He comes down the steps, goes into the car. There's people waiting for him outside. Now, I don't know who was the Vada Mesader, but the Rebbe had to get through. And people stopped him and asked for brachas. And the Rebbe's walking and giving brachas. He gets into his car. He drives down Brooklyn, New York Avenue, up Eastern Parkway. The car comes around. He goes down Brooklyn. He comes into Eastern Parkway. He gets out of his car. He walks up the steps. There's another mob waiting for the Rebbe. And there's people holding you back and people fighting through the mob, trying to get a word in with the Rebbe. And people got over to the Rebbe. In other words, holding people back was not that nobody should approach the Rebbe, it's that they shouldn't slow the Rebbe down, but many people asked the Rebbe brachas. Then the Rebbe gets out of his 770 to go to the mikveh, because he's going to the oil like Bo'ema. So they waited for him again. They mobbed him again. The Rebbe's car drove from Eastern Parkway in Kingston to Union and Albany, where the mikveh is. There was a mob waiting for him there. He gets out of the car to go into the mikveh. There's a bunch of ladies who mobbed him. The Rebbe goes to the mikveh, comes out of the mikveh. There's other ladies mobbing him on the way out of the mikveh. Then he comes back to 770, goes out of his car to his room, weiter mob. Then he gets out of his car to go to the oil. Again, a mob comes back from the oil, gets to 770. So how many times was the Rebbe accosted? In the morning, when he was at his house, when he came to 770, when he went to the mikveh, when he got to the mikveh, when he left to the mikveh, when he came back from the mikveh to 770, when he left 770 to go to the oil, when he came back from the 770 and he went home. 9 times. And many people, it's hard to imagine how fast this happened. And the Rebbe listened to everyone and answered everyone, and there were nisim in his voice. This lady said, I waited for the Rebbe by the mikveh. I think the Rebbe was coming out of the mikveh. And she said, I knew that you can't come in, sorry, I'm a mean guy today. She said, I knew I have 3 seconds. Please stay out. I have 3 seconds. So she practiced. And as the Rebbe is passing her, she steps forward, but of course she doesn't block the Rebbe. She says, I'm asking Abi, and she says her name and her mother's name, and my husband, and his name and his mother's name, should together to bezeich et zara chai v'chayama. But she spits that out literally in 2 or 3 seconds. And the Rebbe stops. And the Rebbe says to her in Yiddish, Ich hab bekommen alle deine Brief. Und du wirst haben Massach Kinder. The Rebbe says to her in Yiddish, I got all your letters. I read every one of those 100 letters. I read them all. And you'll have many children. She was close to 40. Ich hab bekommen alle deine Brief. In other words, the Rebbe read every piece of mail. And she harassed the Rebbe. I received every letter. And I read every letter. And you'll have many children. Anyway, she had twins. She told this to me. I heard this first. She has 2. 2 is not a lot. She had a 3rd child. She has 3 is not a lot. She had a 4th child. She has 5 children. I think most of them were born after she was 40. But the point that the reason I'm telling the story is because the story of Pesach Sheni is not about the Yom Tov the Eibush that gave us. The story of Pesach Sheni is B'yidin kvetching and complaining. And if you want to apply that to us in a very narrow way, it's about going to the oil and bugging the Rebbe. You want something, you don't ask once, you ask and you ask and you ask and you ask and you ask. And then of course you say to yourself, how many times are you going to ask? Think about this. A woman wrote the Rebbe 100 letters over the course of a decade and a half. And one fine day, out of the blue, the Rebbe just says, I got all those letters. I read every single one, and you're going to have a lot of kids. So that's the story. It's one of the insights of the Pesach Sheni is the Lomani Gora. The second chance is a big deal. The fact that the Eibush gave us a second chance is a big deal. But before you get to the second chance, there is the protest, the Lomani Gora. This rabbi who was fabrenging and disturbing my Musaf said, you have to go to the Beis Hamikdash and bring a carbon. It's inconvenient. If you have a heter, if you have a way out, be happy. Why can't you bring the carbon? You're tummy. Why are you tummy? Either you're tummy because you carried the remains of Nadav and Avihu who died on a Chodesh Nisan, or because you're watching the remains of Yosef HaTzadik, so you're tummy because of that. So don't complain. You don't have to schlep and push. Erev Pesach and the Beis Hamikdash was a mess. There was never a busier day in the Beis Hamikdash at Erev Pesach. People were pushing and screaming, and animals were coming and going and dying and whatever, and you were busy. So this guy's putted, and they said, I want to bring a carbon. Instead of saying, oh, thank God, I don't know how to do it, they said, no, manigora. And the story of Pesach Sheni is about their complaining. Go ahead, talk loud and clear.
What's your opinion on writing to the Igros?
I don't think anybody writes to the Igros.
Sorry, writes to the Rebbe?
Write to the Rebbe and you put it in the Igros.
Do you think that...
My opinion is that it's a hergish. I spoke about it at length here. I'm not repeating that speech. I gave a whole class on it. Okay. It's a hergish. There's no chiyuv. But one thing I will tell you, young lady, listen carefully. If you write a letter and you put it in Igros and you get an answer, you do what it says. And if you're not prepared to listen, don't put it in. Because I know the stories of people who didn't listen. You hear me? That's my opinion of Igros. I don't put letters in Igros. I don't. Honest. I don't.
What happens when people don't listen?
The boogeyman comes to get him. You have to listen. It's not a joke. If you put a letter in Igros Kodesh and you got an answer from the Rebbe that is exactly the same as getting an answer B'Ksav 50 years ago, and when you don't listen, it's nishka gelechter. The Rebbe used to say to people, you don't have to ask. But if you ask, you better listen. The Rebbe told the people, it's nishka spiel. It's nicht a spiel. You know the story? I mean, you asked me, I told you I wasn't going to answer you, yeah? A Yid came to the Rebbe, to the Frierdiker Rebbe when he was in America. My son wants to move to Israel. And the Rebbe said, no, you shouldn't go now. The son wasn't from. He told his father, I never told you to ask. He went to Israel and his ship capsized at sea and he died. So the father comes around to the Frierdiker Rebbe and said, why didn't you tell me he was going to die? And the Frierdiker Rebbe stops and says, you think I knew what was going to happen? I just told you what I thought. Aber as mir heißen darf man folgen. When we, the royal we, command, you gotta listen. That's the hard part of Igris. It's not a game, Igris Kiddush. If you put a letter in Igris and no one tells you to do it, and you get a minor, you gotta follow. Okay, we're not discussing Igris Kiddush, please. Igris? So can we leave it for another time?
Just a quick follow-up on that.
You ask so sincerely, it's very hard for me to tell you no. Go ahead.
Sometimes a letter, it's very neutral. It could be to anybody, but there's something it says to do. Like, I don't know, increase in efforts at stuck up. But other things have nothing to do with you. Does that mean you have to now go stuck up?
First of all, giving stuck is not going to hurt you.
Right.
It's always a good thing. Second of all, when the Rebbe gives you an answer in Igris, it's your answer. It's not my answer. When people ask me, can you read the letter for me? I say, I'll read the letter, but I'm not going to tell you what it means. Because you know what the letter means to you. You wrote, you got an answer. I didn't get your answer. I'm very careful about Igris Kiddush. I just know too many stories. But ask your mashpia. And I'm not that. Okay, so that's Pesach Sheni, you got to ask. And it's a good thing to do. You go to the oils when you want, ask. And it may take a while, it may take years. But safe, that's the story. The story of Pesach Sheni is Jewish people protesting. So this mashpia, which I'm bringing in shul, was talking about protesting for Mashiach. The Rebbe spoke in Nun Aleph, 1991, 33 years ago this year. The Rebbe's message of Pesach Sheni is Lo menigora de gula amita. We have to demand Mashiach. And you should know that the Rebbe spoke years earlier that it says in Sfarim that Mashiach is not going to come until we demand him. Mashiach is not going to come until we demand him. We have to demand Mashiach. We have to demand Mashiach. We have to demand Mashiach. And we have to demand whatever we need. But the story of Pesach Sheni is a story by Yidin nudging. So the question comes the Misnagich of Valecha Ve'echa and says, but it's not nice. It's disrespectful. It's not nice to be a nudge. You don't like when your little sister nudges you, your mother can't stand when you nudge her. Why should you nudge the Eibishter? Why should you nudge the Rebbe? And the answer is they can handle it. You understand? The Eibishter can handle it. But if something matters to you, you have to ask. And in plain English, it's mitzvahs tefillah. Hashem gave us a mitzvah to daven. And the mitzvah of davening is asking the Eibishter for the things that we need. And it's one of the key ideas of Pesach Sheni. But now that I got 4 minutes left, let me just share this with you. There's an old Chassidish avart. That Chassidim have 3 shenis. It's from the Frierdiker Rebbe Sichos. Chassidim have 3 seconds. Does anybody know what they are? There's Nefesh HaShenis, there's Cheder Sheni, and there's Pesach Sheni. Nefesh HaShenis b'Yisrael yichelik elakami mal mamish. I would imagine you recognize Nefesh HaShenis means the neshama. And Cheder Sheni means that in old Chabad shuls there was a little room, a secondary room, which was put aside for those who were Meirech B'Tefillah. And they used to call it a Chabad Nitze. A Chabad Nitze was a small little room outside the shul where the people who daven barichas would sit and daven or stand and daven. And the Frierdiker Rebbe says, in a shul on a Chabad Nitze, Tormen ish davenim. In a shul without a Chabad Nitze, you're not allowed to daven. So I'll just tell you a piece of 770 gossip. 770 always had a second room. There was like a coat room, yeah? And when they were expanding 770, there's no place to expand 770. Just take down some more walls. So somebody took down the walls, what used to be the coat room, so there was no official Chabad Nitze. So a younger man copied from the Sikha those few words in a shul on a Chabad Nitze, Tormen ish davenim, and he pasted them on every pole in 770. There was a 770. And the shul on 770 no longer had a Chabad Nitze. In a shul on a Chabad Nitze, Tormen ish davenim. Now Chabad 770 a lot of corners. You can go to Chabad Nitze. This was his way of protesting the fact that there was no place for the Eidim to daven. But in the olden days, Chassidim would daven barichas, daven in a small cheder with a Chabadnitz. So the expression is, you take the Nefesh HaShenis, and you bring him into the Cheder Sheni, and you bring him to the Madrega of Pesach Sheni. Pesach Sheni means tshuva. In other words, you take your neshama, and you daven the way you're supposed to, and you be'eder yourself to a sederness of tshuva. So the ikir of Pesach Sheni is to complain to the Eibishter. The tafel of Pesach Sheni is, the second of Pesach Sheni, the truth of the matter is it's not tafel at all. The other idea of Pesach Sheni is that Pesach Sheni is the day which is connected to Avodas Tshuva. This is the theme of tshuva. As a kemel nishkef afal, we can always fix it. And in our generation, this is very, very important. We are a tshuva generation. You're born and bred in Lubavitch, Spitz Chabad, holy Shebaholy, right? We're all Balei Tshuva. We all struggle. We all make mistakes. The one sin that we're not allowed to commit is quit. You understand? You want to be a Chassidish girl, but you got Yitzharas. You want to be a Chassidish boy, you got Yitzharas. We all got Yitzharas. You want to be a Chassidish man, you got Yitzharas. You want to be a Chassidish letter, Yitzharas. We all have Yitzharas, and we all make mistakes. We all fall and rise. The message of Pesach Sheni is never too late. But don't quit, don't quit, don't quit, don't say I can't. That's the only thing you're not allowed to commit. Okay, I will let you go.